Go love your own enemies. Don't be loving mine. My enemies are the theocratic fascists. I don't love them. I want to destroy them.
You're a child made in the image of God. Oh no, you're not. You're a faggot. And you can't join your church and you can't go to heaven. This is disgraceful. It's inhuman.
So, excuse me while I fix my computer here. So, how old is Pope Francis? You know, he looks like he's getting up there in years. He's probably in his 70s, I'm guessing. Yeah, I'm just reading this article. Pope Francis slips away from the Vatican to work on defects. And I'm going to close the door so the dog's barking isn't so loud. Vatican City. The Pope is getting away from the Vatican for a few days and taking his advisors along to work, as he put it, on fixing the many defects we all have. Defects. Yeah, that's a really good way to see yourself, you know. Defective. You're defective. Francis told tens of thousands of Romans, tourists and pilgrims in St. Peter's Square that he and top aides will begin a spiritual renewal retreat Sunday. So the leader of this cult is telling all of these tens of thousands of people, you know, if he's defective, then clearly all those tens of thousands of people are also defective. Yes, until Friday morning they will spend time listening to reflections, meditating, and praying in Aricia. I have no idea how to say this, a Rome suburb. The Pope said that amid the noise, confusion, one hears only superficial voices. Hearing voices can be a problem, I think, in general. During the retreat, we could listen to the voice of Jesus. And also correct so many defects we all have, he said. Inviting prayers, Francis said the time away from the Vatican will also help participants face the temptations that attack us every day. He didn't list the defects he says need fixing, but in the nearly 2 years since becoming pontiff, Francis has put prelates on guard against careerism, arrogance, hypocrisy, corruption, and being too judgmental instead of merciful. Francis says spiritual conversion and growth starts from the heart. It's there that the match of daily choices between good and evil, worldliness and gospel, and capitalizes gospel, indifference and sharing gets played. The Catholic Church encourages spiritual renewal in Lent when faithful prepare for Easter, which this year falls on April 5th. The retreat means Francis won't hold his traditional weekly public audience on Wednesday. He's in his 70s, and he still looks in the mirror and he sees himself defective. He sees all those flaws. You know, I walked around with that for a huge chunk of my adult life, looking in the mirror and seeing all those flaws and those defects. And I'm not talking about wherever it is, although I do see that too. But I'm talking about the inability to give yourself credit for being the good thing that you are, the good person that you are inside. Giving yourself credit. Focusing on the defects, seeing the defects. Oh my gosh, look at all those defects. We have to jump through this hoop and this hoop and this hoop. We better read our Bible more. We better go to church more. We better meditate more and listen to the good voices and not the bad voices. More. I just noticed my hat is terribly misshapen. I hate it when that happens. You know, life is really short. And it makes me sad to see that this man is in his 70s and he is still in the trap that I was in, that destroyed my self-esteem. Maybe not everybody has their self-esteem destroyed by this mentality, but it destroyed mine. I didn't need that in my life. I had enough of that already from my mother and my brother and my ex-husband and this man who lived with me, who didn't think that the friendship I gave him had any value at all, even though I cared for him and went through hell for him. I didn't need, on top of all that, I did not need the constant reminders that this cult gives its followers that they are defective. They need to continuously, it's not enough to just ask Jesus into your heart. It's not enough to just become a born-again Christian and give your life over to Jesus. That's not enough. You have to constantly work on identifying all the defects and trying to wash yourself clean, purge yourself, be as good as you can be, and it's never quite good enough. You're never quite free of those defects, are you? Because, oh dear, we're humans, we're human beings, and we're defective. We have good in us and the capacity to be evil in us. We are flawed. We were made by nature, and so we are not perfect. But this cult gives us this idea of perfection, and that is what we should strive for. And if we don't cut muster, then we are defective, and we are flawed, and we should hang our heads, and we should get down on our knees and grovel and beg and feel bad and remind ourselves of how unworthy we are, unworthy of salvation. We should just, if we don't do all these things, then we deserve to be tortured forever for simply being made flawed, for being imperfect. Walking around with that all the time, walking around feeling like, God, I could never be good enough. I could never measure up. No matter how hard I pray, no matter how hard I try to be good to my fellow man, I can never be. I will always have these defects. I will look in the mirror and I will always see where I screw up, where I'm not good enough, where there's always something. Oh my goodness, I had a lustful thought the other day. Oh my goodness. I didn't put enough money in I didn't put any money in the little offering basket, because heaven forbid, my children, I was thinking about myself and feeding my kids instead. My kids, I was putting my kids before God, thinking that my kids needed to be fed. That was more important than God. That's I can't believe I could be such a horrible mother. I mean, all these things. 70s, and he's still beating himself up inside for all his defects. He's the leader of this, I call it a cult. He's the leader, He does every day, he works really hard to do good in the world, to lead his flock, to be an example every day. And he still looks in the mirror and he still sees that he isn't good enough. He still doesn't think he's good enough. So for the average, ordinary Christian walking around, how on earth do they have any hope of ever being good enough when the Pope in Rome doesn't think he is? There will always be that feeling, I'm not good enough. I can't be a good enough Christian no matter how hard I try. I'm a failure. I'm a failure. I'll go to church more during the week. I'll pray more. I'll read my Bible more. I'll meditate more. But I'll still not be good enough. Over time, that can really chew up your self-esteem. If your self-esteem is already weak, which is mine was already weak from these other things, this cult can absolutely devastate what little tiny bit you might have left of self-esteem. Utterly devastate. The only thing that loves me in this whole world is Jesus. My mom doesn't love me. My husband doesn't love me. You know, my friends have abandoned me because I have depression. All I have left is Jesus. Jesus is with me, and he loves me, and he's the only one that does. Oh, but, ooh, look in the mirror. Look at all the things that I'm not. Look at all the things that I can't measure up to. I fail him every single day. I fail the one that loves me every single day. No wonder I was fucking thinking about suicide all the time. No wonder so much suicide happens among religious people. This guy, Pope Francis, was born a little baby. Immediately loved. Immediately, the moment he was born and he was held by his mother, he had what it took to be loved. That's all. He was born, he was alive, he had all his fingers and toes, he was a healthy, happy little baby, and he was loved. He didn't do anything exceptional. He just existed. And his mother looked on his face and loved him. That is how, whether or not you have 10 fingers and toes, whether or not you're born perfect or not born perfect, as in appearances when you're born, that is how we all come into this world if we're very lucky. That is how we all appear. We are held, if we're lucky, by somebody who immediately loves us on first sight. We're loved because we are born exactly right. No matter how we are born, we're born exactly right. We are born good. Granted, along the way, we might not be so good anymore. Things might happen to us or whatever. You know, maybe the little child is born to somebody who takes crack cocaine while she's pregnant, or smokes, or whatever, or maybe he's abused when he's a little kid and he recovers from the damage of that. People become evil for various reasons, but in the very beginning, when we're born just right. We're born good. We're not corrupt. We're not sinners. We have nothing to apologize for. And we shouldn't have to feel like we have to work really hard just to be loved. We are deserving. All of us are deserving to be loved. We don't all get to be loved. A lot of us go our entire lives without love. But every single one of us deserves the best of everything. We don't get it, but that doesn't mean we don't deserve it. All we can do is try our hardest and hope that, we try our hardest and maybe good things will happen. Doesn't always, but maybe it will. Last night, there's a store down the street, an Albertsons down the street, and there's an older lady that I see every time I go to the store late at night to get stuff for my lizards. I have to get greens for my iguanas. And there's an older lady I see there every night, and every now and then we kind of talk. And last night I went up to the counter, and there was this couple, and they were giving her a bad time because they were trying to buy beer or whatever, and the ID that they gave this woman was not valid. It had a hole punched in it. So they had a big argument, and then finally the older lady called her manager to come and settle the dispute. After the dispute was settled, the woman that was the younger woman in this couple asked her, "Are you married?" And the older woman's like, and then the younger girl's, what she said to her was, "Oh, I was just wondering if you prefer pussy or dick." It upset this older woman very much to have this snide comment, implying that, she's an older woman with short hair, no makeup, implying, I guess, some insult that, oh, you must be a lesbian. It angered her very much, and after this couple left, she asked the manager if she could go outside because she was so angry that this customer had said this to her. And I paid my bill. I walked out. I saw her walking along. This was like 2 a.m. Outside the store. And I was walking in my car, and on an impulse, I turned around and went back to her and asked her if she was okay. And she said, "No, I'm fine. I'm just really angry." And I said, "Yeah, I'd be really angry too. That was really rude of her." And I think I said something like, "Well, at least you don't have to. At least you're not saddled with her personality. At least you don't have a personality like that." And she said, "Yeah." And then she thanked me. Then I went to my car. I don't know if it made a huge difference, but she seemed to, she said thank you, like just the acknowledgement that, that here was another human being that was hurting, and having somebody come and acknowledge. Maybe it made her feel just a little bit like somebody gave a damn, because her manager certainly didn't. Manager didn't go out and talk to her. Even though she said right to his face, "I'm really angry." She told him what the woman had said to her. Manager didn't say anything to her about it. Maybe he did later, hopefully. The point is, there's so many little things you can do in your life. And instead of walking around wasting away your life thinking about all your flaws and how you can't be good enough and you can't measure up, no matter how hard you da-da-da-da-da. And boy, this cult works to cultivate that feeling. Oh, give us more money. Give us more of your time and money and energy. Instead of that, just looking every day for little ways to make a difference, even if it's just smiling at somebody who's sad, or handing somebody a couple bucks out the window of your car who's standing there with a cardboard sign. Maybe they're not really homeless, but maybe it makes you feel good for a few minutes. And isn't that worth a few bucks? Maybe they really do need help. And if they did, great, then you've helped them. But instead of, well, gee, do they really need help, or are they just one of those people that pretend to be homeless? You don't know. But does it make you feel good to give them a couple bucks? Then isn't that a good thing? Certainly it would make me feel better to give a homeless person with a cardboard sign a couple bucks than sticking money into a stupid offering basket knowing that your pastor has a nice car parked outside waiting, and a nice home, a nice fancy home that your dollars probably helped to pay for. Anyway, this is getting too long. The gist of what I wanted to say is we all have the potential for goodness in us. We all are wonderful. Yeah, we have flaws, and isn't that part of what makes us wonderful? That we can rise above those flaws and still be exceptional. We can still do good. We can still make a difference. We can still change the life of somebody else for the better, even just by smiling, even despite all of the flaws. And maybe if we didn't have those flaws, maybe if we were perfect with little halos around our heads, walking around in white robes, maybe if we were all those things that we strive so hard to be, that perfection, that idea of perfection, like those white marble statues you see in, Catholic churches, looking so pure. If we were those for real, would we even have any feelings? Would we have the capacity to feel compassion and empathy? Would we hurt along with somebody else who's sad and would it touch our lives? Would we feel anything if we were this perfection we try so hard to be? I say embrace the flaws. Love yourself, because you can't love yourself if you don't embrace the flaws. The flaws are who you are, whether they're on your face or your body or in your what you think of. Oh my gosh, is it a flaw that you look twice at somebody and you're married? Is that a flaw? Or is that just you're a human being and you can't control sometimes what you think. But that's just who you are. It's part of who you are. If it's causing you a problem, if your flaws are causing you a problem, like you're drinking too much or you're addicted to pornography or whatever, if there's things that are a problem, then work on the problem to make yourself not be... Nobody wants to be a slave. And these are things that enslave you. Addictions are enslave you, whether it's slavery to alcohol or pornography or these cults that make you feel so dependent that you can't be good without them. All these addictions are things that can poison you and bring you down and even bring on depression and suicide. So yeah, you definitely work on the things that are getting you down. But don't look at yourself as defected. That's a horrible way to see yourself. Look at yourself as, okay, well, here I am. Yeah, I have some fault. I have weaknesses and flaws. But I have good things too, and those good things are worth fighting for. And I deserve the very best, and addiction isn't the best for me. Addiction is self-abuse. And so for your own sake, not for the sake of some pie-in-the-sky idea of perfection or some God that you think is watching your every move, but for the sake of your own happiness, you work on trying to beat those things that enslave you, like addiction. Because you deserve better. Because you're a good person, and you deserve the very best. So anyway, I feel sorry for Pope Francis and his little whatever, Vatican, whatever, castle. He's a nice guy, I think, even though he has some twisted ideas of women and babies and women's rights over their own bodies and staying in a marriage that is, you know, making nobody happy. But he seems, I mean, when I think of all the mice are on the wheel, sorry. When I think of all the popes that I've seen, he seems to be the one that's the most likable. Although, I'm trying to think, there was something he did recently that it really pissed me off. Oh, his comment that it's selfish to not want children. Yeah, I don't really care much for Pope Francis since I heard him say that, but all in all, I still think he's better than a lot of the popes we've had. But even he is sitting there looking in the mirror, not being happy with himself. What does that tell me? It tells me that this cult is not the road to happiness at all. No matter how hard you work, no matter how hard you try, you still look in the mirror and see defects. So anyway, there's a better way. It's called realizing that you were born exactly right. And you don't need a crutch to be a good person. You just need the desire to want to be a good person. That's it. Desire to maybe make somebody feel good instead of bad. That's all it takes. Instead of looking at all your defects and all the things that you can't fix, looking at outside yourself at all the things that maybe you could help fix. You know? Giving that couple bucks to the bum on the road, the guy with the sign, might make you feel a little happier than giving money to a stupid plate that's being passed around. So anyway, if you've been watching, thanks. Bye.
I am absolutely convinced that the main source of hatred in the world is religion. And I think it should be religion treated with ridicule and hatred and contempt.
Share the same weather, winter or summer, May or September, the 4th of whenever, it's better together. Let's get